Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Board Gaming Doctor. My name is Phil, and I'll be your Board Game Doctor today. This is going to be the Rosenblog for March 2024, and we've got a jam-packed podcast here for you. I'm going to keep the podcast as a whole for the podcast audio version, but I will break up the YouTube video versions. As a quick outline over all of the podcast and videos, we're going to go over some recent news, and there's been a lot of news for Rosenberg games. I'm going to go into a full review of Mercator, one of Rosenberg's earliest big box games that does not receive a lot of love these days. And then finally, I'm going to go into the top 10 farming games that are not Rosenberg games at all. And these are the top 10 games as dictated by Board Game Geek, with some caveats there. Stay tuned for that top 10 list. So let's get into the news first. There's been a lot of news in the past month regarding Rosenberg games. And we will start with first that De Vere, the board game publisher, made an announcement that they will be publishing Planta Nubo and give it an English version. Not that the game needed it since it is language independent, but that will mean a wider distribution of the game. It's being published into other languages as well. And so the benefit is that it will be more widely available, at least here locally for me in the United States, and definitely elsewhere as well. I still need to play this game, obviously. If you are a regular follower of the channel, you know that I have been anticipating this game for a while, and it's been a little too expensive for me to try it in person just to see if I like it. Even though it does have Rosenberg's name on it, I still want to at least try it, perhaps virtually, before I make the plunge and buy this game. But perhaps this release from De Vere will make it a little bit cheaper so I can buy it physically and try it there. And the same goes for Tangram City, so hopefully some reviews will come out for both of these games very soon. At least the De Vere version, I believe it will be made available in about September-October time, around Essen time or so, for an English release. So here's to hoping that comes in on time. Next, for all of those, including me, who love playing games on Board Game Arena, 2 Rosenberg games have been released into public alpha testing. If you're not familiar with how that works, games that are in development on Board Game Arena need to go over various play testings to make sure that the UI and the rules and everything are legitimate and making sense, and any bugs are crushed before it is released in subsequent order from alpha testing to beta to full release. Earlier this month, the Norwegians, the big expansion to A Feast for Odin, was released to Board Game Arena in public alpha, featuring not only the full expansion material, including new boards, occupation, cards, pieces, etc., but also the options to play with the mini expansion 2, and an optional ban list for islands and occupations from the whole set. This seems like a big step towards balancing the game for competitive play, in addition to the fact that the expansion opens up new strategies, which I'm really excited to get into. Despite my thoughts about the base game, which I've previously talked about on the channel, I've kind of felt like the base game felt linear when it came to strategies, which is probably not the case, but that's how it came across to me. But despite my feeling that it still projected me to 50 plus plays of it already, and so I know that this game is a favorite game of all time for many people. And if it isn't my favorite Rosenberg or favorite game of all time, and I've played it 50 plus times already, then the base game is obviously really good. And I'm really excited to see both just the casual and competitive play expand with this expansion being more widely available on Board Game Arena. And yeah, can't wait to see how that turns out. The other game more recently released into public alpha, literally a couple of days ago before this recording, is one of my favorite games of all time. Glass Road is also there on public alpha on Board Game Arena. So I admit I've been following the development of this game from behind the scenes before it has come to public alpha. And I can say that it has taken years for this game to come to the point where it's now at, which when I saw this become a reality where I could play multiplayer on public alpha, and subsequently as this game is developed and released fully, this huge step was quite emotional for me to see. I believe that the game license was granted probably 4 or 5 years ago, and development had been on and off for this game for that period of time, and so an adaptation of Glass Road on Board Game Arena, from what I can tell, is perhaps not as straightforward as other games, considering the simultaneous play, knowing the order of operations when you play cards, etc. And I can say that I have been able to get a couple of games started, and I'm very impressed with the UI thus far with this particular adaptation. So kudos to Sergio, the developer of this game on Board Game Arena. My sincere gratitude for working on this game thus far and bringing it to this point. One of my favorite games for sure, and I can't wait to play this game more, multiplayer especially. I think most of my plays, the majority of my plays, have been solo, which feels like a different game compared to the multiplayer, as some Rosenberg games are. And so here's to speedy testing and hoping to really dig into, competitively as well as just casually, one of my treasured games of all time, finally on Board Game Arena. So finally, speaking of Glass Road, another big, drop in news, for me at least, was more news on the fabled Black Forest, or Glass Road 2.0, which I've covered, I think about a year ago or so on the channel. And this particular post was teased, I think, the day after Glass Road was announced on Public Alpha. This bit of information on Black Forest was teased by someone who got to play the prototype, I presume the prototype, with a picture of it posted on Board Game Geek, saying that this game is slated for an Essen release later this year. Looking at the picture, this definitely looks like a version of Glass Road, with the resource wheels, tableau building with two different types of building tiles, I think, landscape tiles as well on your tableau. But instead of playing cards from your hand like you do in Glass Road, it looks like you're taking actions on a central board with a lot of different interconnected routes and modular setup of the game as well. And so this traveling around maybe this is just because this game is fresh on my mind, but it kind of gives me vibes from Mercator and the way that you travel around on that board, except in the Black Forest area of Germany. And so I'm really excited to see how this game comes about. And my prediction thus far, just looking at this image, is that this game would be a combination of Glass Road and Mercator. And so hopefully we get some more information and confirmation soon on this game. I'm really excited to see how this turns out, if this is truly something that is coming down the road.